So let's make a start on today's workshop. So we're looking at workshop 2 today, and we're going to concentrate and look at financial statements in more detail, which is covered in chapter 2 of your textbook. Now, we have a number of learning objectives that we're going to be covering today, and each of these videos are going to be relating to one of the objectives, right? So the first one we'll start with in this particular video is learning objective 1, explore the 3 major forms of business. And then we'll work through each of these, which will explore the financial statements in more detail and talk about some of the governance and direction around preparing these financial statements. So let's start with learning objective 1, the 3 major forms of business. So the question I have for you is, what is the best form of business? Is it a sole trader? Is it a partnership? Or is it a corporation? Okay, so which is best really depends on the nature of the business and the preferences of the owners of that business. So a sole trader is the most basic and easy business to start. You can start in Australia at least with an ABN number. You can go out there and you can do business. The legal process in terms of starting that business is very, very straightforward, getting your ABN number essentially, and there are not a great deal of reporting requirements, etc., that come with that. The issue though with that is trying to raise additional funds and combine forces with different people. So sometimes other forms of business are more appropriate. So for major companies, for example, like Wesfarmers, so we have Wesfarmers here, right? This is a really, really large company with many subsidiaries and entities in Australia and around the world. And one of their big entities and very profitable entities is Bunnings, which is obviously why they've got the photo of the Bunnings staff right in the middle of the About Us page on their website. Now, the advantage of a corporation, a public corporation in the case of Wesfarmers, is that they can raise funds from many shareholders as part of expanding and financing their operations. As well as that, the shareholders can obviously diversify their risk because they can buy shares in Wesfarmers with the hope of generating good returns, and they can buy shares in other organisations so they're not completely dependent on Wesfarmers' performance over time. With corporations, and particularly public corporations, there's a lot of regulations that come with that from a corporate perspective, as well as a financial reporting perspective. So you'll be able to find information for investors on the Wesfarmers page, which details their annual reports, shareholder information, where you can find things like dividend information, etc., that would help you make an informed decision as to whether or not you'd want to invest or divest in Wesfarmers. Now, another form of business is a partnership. Now, partnerships are often those businesses that are smaller, where a few people combine forces, for example, like medical practices here. So if we look at this particular medical practice, we can see on the wall, if we just zoom in on Google, that we have the dentists that are practicing here. So they're essentially partners in this particular business. And so therefore they're able to share the overheads, the costs of running this business, and they have multiple offices and rooms within this dental shop that allows them to operate their business. So in terms of the legal structure of the business, it's much closer to a sole trader. The owners, so the partners in this business, are liable for the debts, personally liable if they're unable to meet the obligations of this entity. So that's obviously a drawback and a risk factor. So corporations, the owners are not liable if the corporation, so if that separate corporate entity can't service its debt obligation. And that's why people are much more willing to invest in corporations, because it's a separate legal entity and therefore there's protection there for the owners.